Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Noble with Noble podcast. This week we have Rachel Levy joining us on the podcast. She is a realtor also at Slavens, but you just joined Slavens, right? Not too long ago?
The summer.
Yeah, so
Yep.
So you're not a new agent, but...
new agent to the brokerage.
New agent to the brokerage, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you can... Been doing it for...
You can say I work in the mailroom. I'm totally okay with that too.
No, we're not going to put you at that level.
Yeah, no.
I'm working in the mailroom.
Not at all.
We're making our way though. We're building up.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
So why'd you come to Slavens? I guess we can. Let's start off with the beginning. So I guess where you started in real estate and how you sort of got into it.
Well, first of all, I have to say this is my very first podcast, so thank you very much for having me
on. This is my very second podcast.
I know, and I made it to number 2. I'm looking over here. He's not even on. Yeah.
we had Darren last week, and then
wow, I followed the boss. Big shoes. I'm honored.
You should be.
Listen, I think you just called on me to talk football, but you insist on talking about that later because you killed it on Sunday. But anyway, so my journey, I started long story short, I started my career in fashion.
Okay.
When I was a kid.
by the nice fit you got going on.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if you can see the shoes, but you got very cool shoes on.
No, so...
And if you're listening, they're sparkly.
Yes, my goose. So I started my career in fashion. Okay. And in the height of, the Gap, when they were the coolest retailer in Toronto, they had maybe 6 people in their head office. Okay. And I knew obviously I didn't want to work in a store for the rest of my life. And there wasn't a lot. I was in the wrong country, let's say, for the fashion industry. Okay. So
what's your ideal country to be in for fashion? Like Italy?
I would actually probably just go somewhere closer like New York. Okay. New York is a happy place for me, for sure. Okay. And I'm not a linguist. I barely speak English on good days. So, no need to throw in a new language
we're
for me.
We're throwing in hypotheticals here.
Yeah, no.
Everyone speaks English all over the over the world.
Fair. And I fell into media. I was in media for, oh my gosh, I don't even remember now, 12, 15 years.
Okay, a long time.
Long time, and I absolutely loved it, and I probably sold everything but television.
Okay.
But about halfway through, I started to think about my next step, and I thought about what I really wanted to do next, even though I was having an amazing, I was at the top of my career.
Yeah.
And I remembered being a teenager and in high school, and a friend of mine's mother had one of those, so girls, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a real estate agent. And you know what she said to me? That's not a real job.
Really?
By the way, I was talking to an old friend of mine, and I told him, who's also been a realtor for 25 years, and I told him that story. He goes, it wasn't a real job back then, Rachel. And listen, it's a very different industry now, for sure. All jokes aside. Yeah. So
and if she's listening now, she knows that it's for sure a real job because she sees how successful.
No, it's really interesting to see how the whole industry has evolved and disrupted. So it's interesting for me, especially because I come from an industry that went from very traditional ways, newspaper and television, and then had this huge disruption with digital. And 5 years ago, I watched this industry change as well, and it was ripe for disruption. And the people who were a lot smarter than me were saying the same thing. And I think we're on the cusp of seeing this business turn on its head.
Yeah.
How? I think there's lots of opinions on that, but anyway. And so I got my license, and I did double duty. So I had 2 full-time jobs.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people do. A lot of people get the real estate license. They'll be working full-time. They get it as a part-time thing. And not a lot of people transition into full-time.
Yeah. So I knew it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it part-time.
Okay.
Just because I've been doing sales all my life, and I know you can't do sales part-time. So I really did 2 full-time jobs for years, and it was super stressful. I know my husband's happy that I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And I finally went full-time. I wish I had done it years and years ago. But, so that's my journey. And then I was introduced to Darren probably about a year ago.
Okay.
And and yeah, just was the right fit and the right move for me.
Yeah. It seems like it. Like you seem, I mean, we didn't really know each other before, but you seem a lot happier. You just seem happy with.
You just know I wasn't happy before.
Not that you weren't happy before, but I see you walk into the office and
I love it.
Smile on your face. And
I love what I do.
Good time.
I love what I do, and it's a lovely atmosphere in the brokerage, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, no,
it really does.
And we spoke about that when I was talking to Darren. He mentioned the same thing where, we developed that family atmosphere in the brokerage, and everyone, you can walk in, talk to anybody at any time, at any day, and they're answering questions, and it's that sort of that tight knit environment that some people may not have at other brokerages. That
they don't.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist in most places for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I guess I just got lucky off the start.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Well, at least you'll know what it always should be.
Right.
So
it's like being brought up, like with a good support system. Mm-hmm. Right, because as soon as you don't have that, you sort of, and then you get it after, you sort of appreciate, you don't really appreciate what you didn't have before, sort of thing,
Right, for sure. You will always know this. This will be your benchmark for sure.
Yeah.
I think what convinced me was obviously, I believe in like kind of skin in the game. So I think a lot of brokerages are run by management.
Yeah.
So people who get paid a salary, who may get a bonus based on bottom line, and when you have someone who owns and is invested in every single person doing well, the attention and dedication is totally different.
Right.
And just wanting to be different.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, right? And I think that a lot of the brokerages that, and none of them come to mind, I'm not disparaging anyone, but I think there will be a lot of brokerages that have kind of do the same thing. Let's say I saw a newspaper do years ago that just kind of rest on their laurels and say, I've got, 600, 700, 1,500 agents. They've never spoken to a deal department or a president or anybody internally and think that they're going to, survive in this business. I don't know. I don't know looking glass, but I think it'll get harder.
Yeah, for sure. Because you need those people who you can have that personal connection with. Like you said,
agree.
Even if they're not agents, even if they're admin people, because those are people that care about you. And if you care about them, it's like you lift each other up.
I agree. I also think it's shocking how much is like the legalities involved in buying and selling homes that are left with agents that don't have a single, day in law school, that don't have the support in their brokerages, that write up. I've had to help agents who are buying properties of mine just because I have to protect my client. So if a clause isn't in there, I don't want it to come back on me. And so when you have these brokerages that let people, and listen, I was what they would consider a part-time agent in the sense that I wasn't only doing real estate, but there are guys that do, what was the stat that someone told me the other day? Something like 79% of agents in this business do less than 5 deals a year.
Yeah, there's some crazy.
So there's 68,000 agents in TRAB, Toronto Real Estate Board. And again, this is not like, I think there's room for everybody to do a great job and be successful.
Yeah.
What concerns me is that if you're not doing it every day and you don't have the expertise and you haven't been doing it for years, and then you also don't have that brokerage support behind you,
you're stuck.
This is where you hear about the nightmares, right?
Yeah.
Like, I bought a house and I didn't know this should have been warranted, or I didn't know I should have a home
and you
inspection.
show up on closing day and there are all these problems with it. And,
exactly.
The person you go to blame is the person who should know what's going on. And
I know people who have sued agents and real estate lawyers.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Just not covering themselves.
Yeah. And I think there's also like half of these agents haven't even done one deal. Like I know you said there's a certain percent who haven't done
or don't
5?
Do any deals a year. Yeah. Well, they park there.
Right.
I was discussing that with someone also the other day. I didn't understand it, but
yeah, I don't know. There's some sort of split where like the top whatever agents make however like 90, 80%.
90-10. I think it's become, and I think it's going to become harder for sure.
Yeah. But you're one of those top agents though.
I'm very proud to be there.
Yeah.
I am.
So, I mean, everyone has their own success story, but what do you think is one of the main reasons why you're successful in this business? Besides sort of having that drive, since you were a kid.
For sure. My husband tells me, stop selling me. I can't help it. I think it was to really try to be everything the stereotypical agent wasn't. So, and again, not stereotyping. I am stereotyping. Not disparaging, but I think it's unfortunate, when you think about all the people in this world, like if you think of profession and you think who's respected and who's not, right? Like if you were to say like, real estate agents are probably really down here, right? Like we got doctors, lawyers, right?
Yeah, you get
and then
all
we might
those
be down here with
salespeople.
like the politicians, right? Or like insurance salesmen.
I feel like anyone in sales is just all the way at the bottom because people don't like to be bothered, and this is a business where you have to be bothering people, even if it's once a month, once every 2 weeks, even going and door knocking. Like you're doing something to sort of give those people a little nudge, and I feel like that's what people don't like about real estate people in the business. It's
interesting you use that here, a little therapy session. Why do you go with bothering? It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe bothering isn't the right.
No, but I think it's interesting, and I think it probably comes from this perception that we believe people have of us.
Exactly.
That we are trying to go for that business. So, two things. I think obviously, I was really against any kind of outward marketing. I mean, probably because of my background. I really believe in. I believed in just making it on the hard work that I did and building it on referrals. So 99% of my business is all referrals.
Okay.
Every single piece of it. I've never bought a park bench. I've never bought an outdoor poster. I've never done anything.
Right.
I think I literally dropped my first postcard on a sale in the mail like once. I've never done a direct mailer even. Okay. And then I also believed in value.
Yeah.
So I think
that's most important.
I think it is. Yeah. And I think that my cost per sale is probably a lot higher than most agents. Right. And I think people would probably think on some level that I'm really crazy considering what I do bring to the table. Yeah. For example, like I hired a non-agent support staff to be a director of client services before I ever brought in a revenue generating agent. Okay. Because I believed in building that service first.
Yeah, you need to build your own business before you start helping support other people's businesses.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Or other people might look at it as trying to make money off someone else. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I think that both those things have really differentiated me. Yeah. See, that's why I can't go to live in another country. I can barely speak English. And I think at the end of the day, just being a really good person, like just trying to be a good person,
just being you.
Right? I always say, like, I'm always going to tell clients the truth. Mm-hmm. So I wish that your house was worth $2 million, but sometimes it'll only be worth 1.7. Right. Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you different. And if you want it to be worth $2 million, I give you all the best. I'm just not the agent for you. Yeah. Right. And I think that sincerity.
That's good because people see that. They don't say, I want $2 million, and you say, yep, let's go do it, even though you know that it should be maybe $1 million, maybe $1.5 million, because they can see that you're being truthful and that you care about their opinion, but then it also sees that they value your opinion just as much, right?
Yeah, yeah. I also, again, coming from my background, I'm super data driven.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have multiple touch points and ways of coming up with pricing and comparables and values, and so there's not a lot of like I think, kind of perspective, and I think that lends to people feeling really like they can trust what I'm saying.
Yeah. Maybe you should make a guide for those people who...
Yeah, I'll just add that to I'll add it to the list after doing a podcast.
Things, yeah.
Yeah,
because listen, like someone like me, I'm not a data-driven person. I'm a very hands-on person. I went to school for design, which is...
Did you really? Yeah, that's so cool.
All hands-on, yeah. So...
You know where my office is. Come and show. I'll show you.
I'll help you out. And you can help me out. Yeah, because I went to college instead of university. And for the people who don't live in Canada who might be listening, it's different here, right? It's not like community college, but it's where everything I was doing was project-based. Mm-hmm. I would have 5 classes. Each class would have 4 projects. Mm-hmm. Each project was worth 25% of my grade. And we'd have 5 weeks to do each project. You'd start from the bottom. You'd start with, doing sketches if it were a logo. Start with the sketches. Next week, you'd bring those down to 3 that you'd sketch out. Mm-hmm. Then you bring those down to 2 in color. Mm-hmm. Then you bring it down to 1 with 2 options, and then you'd have the final. And it's like, you know, I was learning off of starting with that base and moving. It was never about data. It was never about doing numbers. And, you know, when you go to school and you do like a math, like a math exam, there's one right answer, right? You go, do the math, that's the answer. But with this, it was so subjective that you sort of had to bring out that creative side.
Interesting.
And so I was never into that data stream of, you know, crunching numbers, doing finances, doing all of this. But I guess what drove me towards a business was that the people side of it, of being authentic, being myself, having conversations with people, and then figuring that other stuff out later. Because, listen, I can always get help with those things. I mean, obviously I'm doing well, and I'm enjoying it. But having something structured where I can go and have like a data sheet and see, you know, how you do all these numbers would be, I don't know.
No problem. I think you have a lot in like what you went to school for in the process. Sounds like it probably lends yourself really well to the whole process to real estate, because the reality is that for all your listeners out there in Australia or US, as you said, that you
be some.
You could be.
Let us know. Let us know if you're from somewhere else.
You know, the reality is that, you know, the process of buying and selling real estate does not happen in 3 days, even though I think a lot of the public thinks that we just, you know, we make so much money hand over fist and it happens every single day. And people call us, we buy it at the end of the day and we're raking it in. It is a long process, and you will meet a client who wants to tell you all about what they're looking for. And then it could take a year. I had clients who were moving from New York back to Toronto.
Okay.
And we spent 2 years looking for a house.
Really?
Before we finally realized that their house didn't exist. And I gave them a little tough love and said, your perfect house doesn't exist. We have to build it. And we need a builder's lot. And we found a builder's lot. And they built their perfect house. But I think that you having that process of knowing that you are given like a project. Each of your clients is a project.
Yeah.
And you know that you're in it for the long haul and you're used to that lead time is probably really an
That's
advantage
a good way to
you
think
have.
about it. I never really thought about it like that. Mm-hmm. I feel like talking it out now makes a lot more sense. But
I'm available for therapy anytime.
we can have you on next week again. We can turn this from the Noble podcast to therapy sessions with Rachel, or we can you can do your own page. And I can come on here weekly and we can just talk about my problems. And what's
we can
going
delve
on
deep into your childhood.
Because everyone has problems. I feel like it would be good to sort of talk about those.
Could be maybe not in the sense of real estate.
No, definitely not in the sense of real estate. But
there
just
you go.
Because there are a lot of people who are protective of their feelings and everything, and hearing other people talk about it is.
There are quite a few podcasts. You listen to podcasts?
I'm not. No.
Okay, it's hilarious that you're doing one.
This is the second podcast that I've obviously been on because I did my first episode, and I think I've listened to 2, maybe 3 episodes of other podcasts ever. I don't know.
I have some favorites.
Person. Yeah.
People say that to me all the time.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh because when I tell people, oh, I've got a great podcast for you, they're like, I'm not really a podcast person. I'm like, I used to say the same thing.
Yeah.
And as realtors, we spend so much time in our cars.
Yeah.
So much time. We live in our cars. Okay. My car is my purse.
Always.
Extended purse.
Filling up gas.
And like even my kids they're like, what is this crap again, Mom? But
I don't know. I listen to music. I'm not a podcast person in the car. Like I feel like when I get in the car and I'm sitting and I'm driving, I don't want to hear other people talk. Does that sound bad?
So I love music, but I would say how long can you listen? Like I'm in the car all the time. Really?
I can drive down to Florida. It could be like a 20-hour drive and just listen to music, which is weird because I say that now, but what we're doing right now is we're doing a podcast where people are going to be sitting in their cars on their way to work, on their way home from work, going from showing to showing, and they're listening to us talk right now about how not that I hate podcasts, but it's just I don't know, it's not my thing.
Like
but
music.
I enjoy the conversation.
But it's interesting because it's like music. So I will get into a car sometimes and like I'm just there's a lot going on in my brain and I don't really want to think about it, and I don't want to get pumped up, and I feel like I just want something really calming, and I follow a couple of functional medicine doctors that just talk about like, wellness, and it's just a really calming kind of.
And are you into that, or did you just try listening to a different podcast and you thought that it was interesting?
Most of them I started following on Instagram, or I followed them on social to begin with, and then I found out that they have a podcast, and I have followed people on social, tried their podcast, and they suck, so I don't. So I mean, it does take a good one for me to listen.
Yeah, hopefully this one is one of those.
Well, we'll see. Definitely not this one. Well. And then sometimes I just feel like I'm like really in the zone, and I want to listen to like what's the latest from like certain people in the industry that I really respect.
Yeah.
And I think we all can never stop learning, right? So I learned something from you. I learned something from Darren and people in the office, and then I learned people like from other agents that I'm friends with, and influencers and that type of thing. So I really enjoy it.
On that book that you gave me too, because I'm not a reader, but like I'm trying, same thing with the podcast.
It's a really quick read.
Yeah, but I'm not a very quick reader. Like I'm just not.
Okay. You're creative.
I used to read as a kid, but now it's just, I feel like I have my attention on so many other things that like when it's time for me to wind down before bed, like I'll just throw on TV and I'll take a read soon. Like like I said, I'm reading one of my other friends' books right now, and then we'll move on to that. Problem. So yeah, I guess we can talk about your clients. So you just had an event a couple weeks ago.
I did last week.
Because we spoke about the client relationships and how you build yourself on, referrals and repeat referrals. And a good thing to do is host these events where you can talk to your clients, have them come in, have them, schmooze around, talk to you, talk to your other clients, and sort of have everyone come together. How did you come up with that idea, and like what did you do for it?
So I think it was a couple of things. I had wanted to do it before COVID. Obviously, that put a halt to everything for years. But before COVID, I actually had gone to Inman in New York City, one of the largest like real estate conferences. They have one in Vegas. Really cool if you ever decide to.
Yeah. I'll do conferences.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to.
And the New York one is a really good one, and it's close, and it's the end of January.
Okay. Maybe we'll go together.
Yeah, I actually asked Darren today, and he said he thinks he's going to go. Okay. And another agent of mine I know that I'm friends with said she was going to go. And it's a good one. It really is. And the U.S. is always a little bit ahead of us, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a big trend for them, was these agents that were throwing events. It was really like experiences. And it makes you really think about people's habits and what makes them make those choices. And we all know, like, there are going to be people who want certain people's names on a lawn. I don't know if I'm never going to be that person, because I don't see myself ever being that person that's got, that's farming a certain area, that's got my billboard everywhere. There are people who want that number one agent in that area. Yeah. I personally think it's a little bit old school, but I get that that's for everybody. There's something for everybody. But, I really believe in that experience where I'm just sometimes calling clients because I haven't spoken to them in a while, not because I want to ask them if they're thinking about buying or selling, because I'm just genuinely interested to know what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
And so this was really just I want to see everybody.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of questions on, well, what is it? Like, people show up, they were like, okay, so what's going on? And like, someone actually said to me, they had invited someone, and that person had said, what are they doing? She's like, I don't know. Like, maybe she's previewing a condo. Like, she's thinking that it was very much of that salesy thing.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It was just like a
shout out to TNT, who gave us the coolest space. I mean, I felt like I was in an art gallery.
Video
super
looked
cool.
Incredible.
They did it. Oh my God, they're amazing. And I had some amazing sponsors, and I had a mortgage broker from Outline Financial that I do a lot of business with. She's amazing. Molly Lawrence, and Lee Lambert, who is has a business law firm called Lambert Logic, and Peter Pan Bistro in Toronto, iconic. They did the food, Tromba Tequila. Like, it was really cool.
Yeah,
and of course, Slavin supported us.
Yeah.
And had swag, because I come from media, and you can't come to a party without swag. Yeah. Good swag.
Nice big Yeti cups. And you had one you showed me in your office. I don't know if you brought one.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I got a lot of good feedback on that. And I'm already planning, next year. So I think making sure not only do you have touch points of value. So it's interesting, all kind of full circle in the bugging, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest lessons is that whenever you're reaching out to your clients or you're having that, the question is, what's the value for you to pick up the phone? What's the value for you to knock on that door?
Right.
And if you can answer that question, it's not bugging.
Okay.
Right? So, I was never really a big fan of mailers. Like, just to me, I was never going to cut and paste the mailer that came out of the brokerage, right? Because to me, I wanted to make sure that I felt there was value that I was bringing personally, right? Yeah. So I made it my own.
I feel the exact same, that I want to give that value. Like I said, I went door knocking a couple weeks ago.
How'd that go? I've never done it. I'm interested. Good. Tell us about door knocking.
So I went with Darren. Because he's the kind of person where...
The OG of...
The OG.
My kids right now would totally make fun of me for saying that I'd use the OG, but he's the OG. He there you go. Of door knocking as well.
Of door knocking, yeah, because... Listen, for me to go door knocking by myself, I don't really want to do that because I don't know what to say, right? I hate when people knock on my doors. I if someone knocks on my door and I go and I answer the door, and they want to sell me something or whatever, I just kind of... no, thank you. I'm not interested. Right. Close the door, which I'm sure 95% of the people are doing right now because no one's actually interested. So my thought process is, when I go knock on these people's doors, what value do I bring? What can I say for them to keep the door open, even if it's for 30 seconds? Mm-hmm.
So what'd you say?
Honestly, I kind of
blocked it all out.
Yeah. Because I was with Darren, right? So Darren sort of took the lead.
Great.
We went door knocking twice. The first time was just, we had some letters that we were handing out. He had a client who had interest in the area, so we were saying that we have buyers in the area, and going and handing them out there. And it was okay because it was sort of, they answer the door, you give them a thing and whatever. But the second time we went, we had leaf bags. So our brokerage did.
Right.
The leaf bag thing where...
How'd that go? I did not do it. Couldn't get my act together to get it
we
done.
Packed up a ton of leaf bags, about 2 or 3 per person, with a little card that's had a little thing on it. I don't remember what the message said.
Yeah.
And had our information on there. But it was good because we had an incentive, we'd knock on the door and we had something of value to give them.
Totally.
So you knock on the door, you say, hey, I see that the fall colors are turning and the leaves are falling, and if you need to rake your lawn
for sure
3-4 times in the month of October, so just a little help. And they don't have to obviously everyone took it, all the people who answered the door. We probably had about... Did
you take it to people you didn't know, or you just took it to your clients?
No, we went door knocking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just knocked on people's doors in one of the areas, and we went to about 50 doors, and just I'd say maybe 40% actually answered the door, and the rest we just kind of dropped it off. But those 40% where we had the conversation, it was nice because you sort of saw them and you can see that they appreciated that we were giving them something and giving them something of value. Mm-hmm. Is it going to turn into anything? Who knows? Probably not. Maybe not in the next month, 2 months, 6 months, but down the road, if you do it enough times and you go out there, you can knock on 1,000 doors for free, and the one person that says yes out of those 1,000 gets you a deal, right? And then that client can turn into other clients. And that's where the repeat referral comes from.
Right.
But how else would I have met this person if I didn't knock on their door?
Agreed. Right. And I think it's consistency. So the question is, how often are you going to go on those? For me, sales is a consistency, right? Mm-hmm. So you can have one client, and then that one client can tell another client, and then it grows, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not talking to all of them on a consistent basis, that's not growing, right? Because then all of a sudden, those people that for years ago aren't thinking about you anymore. And so I think about that from a door knocking standpoint. Is it, are you door knocking in a certain area, and is that another touch point so that you have that consistency?
We did do that specific area, but I think it was more his area where he was more comfortable. If I did go door knocking in my neighborhood, I feel like it would be fine. I'd be more comfortable because I do know the area. Mm-hmm. But again, you have these agents who try and get that number one in whatever city.
Yeah.
And they're door knocking. I had some friends call me and say that they had some realtors door knocking on their door the other day. And,
Yeah.
Not why aren't you doing that, but, if you can get in this area, it could
Right.
lead to something.
Right.
So
Why?
it's just...
They were going to sell with the other realtor.
No, they weren't going to sell with the other realtor.
No.
But
no,
they were going to sell with me, of course.
Of course.
But
of course.
there comes to a time where, maybe I would be effective doing that. And I feel like because I'm trying to still grow myself, like that's where I could get a lot of value. Like I don't really want to be cold calling people. I'd call people in my contacts, but I feel like the door knocking is better because it's more personable, right? Like you can go
for sure, put a face.
Yep.
Right?
Because I'm sure you get millions of flyers in your mailbox talking about.
So going
realtors.
back to that, I think it's interesting because I think the people that do that well and probably get business from it are the ones that have a mailer in my mailbox every single week.
Right.
So that was where my question was coming from is, is that, and we talked about this about like the CRM and, consistency. It's like when you're building that business, all of those things are so useful. But it's a matter of like what part of that strategy is it? Does it live by itself? Am I going to just try and go out today and see if I get anything? And then that gets moved on and you move on to the next one? Or are you saying like, this is what I'm going to do every single month and one day a week I'm going to go door knocking and it's going to be consistent?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was trying to get to.
Yeah, no, I was talking to a friend of mine, Jeremy, if you're watching this. We were out last week. Out for dinner and we were talking and he said the same thing, right? I mentioned the door knocking thing and he was like, listen, like if you can get 20 doors a day,
right?
That's it. If you think about how many doors 20 doors is, that would take you what? Like an hour?
Yeah.
Spend an hour every day.
You do that start your day off that way. For right? Like
a year.
Finish your day off that way.
Do you know how many like thousands, like you're bound to get one and it's free.
Right.
So I think starting... No, I don't want to say, starting in the next year because then that just means that I'm getting lazy and I don't want to do it. But I think, when the weather gets nice out again and people are sort of going out, like there's like if there's a foot of snow outside, I'm not gonna be. But maybe that's
people don't want their door open when it's cold either. Yeah. No, I don't think it's being lazy. I think it's just being strategic.
Yeah.
I mean, not everything has to start tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right. So.
And it has to start somewhere, and you got to build the business from the ground up. So it's figuring out. And listen, like Darren and I had the talk of like, I don't know what to say when I walk up there. What do I say? And I'm still sort of trying to figure that out because it was easy when I had something that had value, but when I don't have anything of value, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing would say. And I feel like everyone has their own way of doing it, their own different thing that they would say. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if I've found mine yet, but I don't know if I will unless I start door knocking.
Yeah. I mean, I would say also maybe go the other way and say, what's the outcome you want? So what's the value of me knocking on that door? And what do I want to get ideally from that person? Mm-hmm. And then work your way back. So do I want that person to want more information from me? Do I want that person to invite me in? Do I want that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then maybe is the opportunity for you to, instead of doing a direct mailer in a mailbox, you show up and you hand it to them and say, hey, I work the area. I want to introduce myself.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're really busy. I don't want to take a ton of time, but you can scan the QR code on the back of my card and you can check me out and what I'm all about.
Well, that's what I need you for then. Someone who's useful, who I can speak to, gives me all this is free information. People are listening to this.
Anytime.
See, this is what sucks because now everyone's going to be able to hear what we're talking about. And
all those people in Australia.
Yeah, they're going to steal our ideas. Like this is where we're building. And
I would say that's the biggest change I would say in this industry is people do not keep anything close to hand. I would say when I started, I think you asked me when I got my license. I actually don't remember.
Yeah.
But it was over 10 years ago. I think I missed my 10-year anniversary, which is kind of sad. It was busy during COVID, but
that's sad.
I want to say like 12 years maybe.
Well,
11,
we can throw we'll throw like a late party for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
10-year anniversary.
And no one spoke about anything. No one told them who their photographers were. No one shared stagers. No one wouldn't even tell you the CRM they use. Everything was really close to their chest. And now with social media and with everybody, really
Everything's out
just
there.
share. It also is just sharing. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have, I don't feel like it has the same, there's not the same environment, at least in the Toronto market. I don't know anybody else working in other markets, but I don't feel, and I have come across some really amazing top agents as well who are just like, you know, generous, that want to see people succeed, and if they can help and share what they've done. And the reality is, it's interesting. Like I know I was on a boot camp with Darren, and he said, you know, that idea was amazing. I remember what it was, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And he goes, no one's going to do it. He said it's great, and he doesn't have a problem sharing it. This agent.
Yeah.
He said, because the reality is that less than 1% of those 1% will even do it, right?
Exactly.
So, but of that one person that does it, it was a great gem.
Yeah, and I've taken a lot of information from that as well. You know, I've seen that from multiple realtors. They've given me free stuff, and I question. I go, why are you giving it to me for free? This should be something that you pay for. And they said the same thing. It's like the amount of people who will actually follow it is so few that giving it out for free doesn't mean anything. So I'm gonna put all of your stuff. You know, again, where can people find you? Because I know you post on Instagram, you post on TikTok.
Rachel Levy Homes.
Just Rachel Levy Homes.
Yeah,
on all
at
platforms.
Rachel Levy Homes. Yeah,
we're gonna link all of those. So
okay, great. Thank you.
I guess your website.
Yeah,
working on it.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everybody in Australia.
That's it. All right. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.